Story 1. I've been working retail for about 4 years now, starting right after high school when I couldn't afford college. What began as a temporary job at this mid-sized department store has somehow become my career, though I'm still hoping to save enough to go back to school someday. The store I work at is in a pretty affluent part of town, which means we get our fair share of demanding customers. But after 4 years of dealing with everything from people trying to return clearly used items to folks who think screaming will magically change our return policy, I thought I'd seen it all. I was wrong. It started out as a normal Saturday afternoon. I was working the electronics section, helping customers with phones, tablets, and accessories. The weekend crowd was typical families shopping for back-to-school supplies, teenagers looking at phone cases, and the usual mix of browsers and serious buyers. Around 2 p.m., this woman approached my counter carrying a high-end tablet and several expensive accessories. She looked to be in her 40s, with blonde hair and the kind of designer clothes that probably cost more than I make in a week. "Karen, I need to check out, but first I want to make sure you're applying my heritage discount." I looked at her, confused. We had senior discounts, employee discounts, and student discounts, but I'd never heard of a heritage discount. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm not familiar with that discount. Could you tell me more about it?" "Karen, really? You don't know about the Nordic Heritage Discount? I'm of pure Scandinavian descent, and my ancestors were the original settlers of this region." I blinked a few times, trying to process what she was saying. "Ma'am, we don't have any discounts based on ancestry or heritage. Our current promotions are listed right here on this sign." I pointed to the promotional display showing our back-to-school sales and clearance items. "Karen, that's ridiculous. My family has been shopping at this store since it opened. My great-great-grandfather was Norwegian, and the Norse people were explorers and traders who discovered America long before Columbus." "That's interesting history, ma'am. But we don't offer discounts based on family background. However, I'd be happy to check if any of these items are on sale." "Karen, you're not understanding me. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for recognition of my heritage. Nordic people built this country, and we deserve acknowledgement for our contributions." She was getting louder, and other customers were starting to notice. "I understand you're proud of your heritage, but our store policies don't include ancestry-based discounts. Let me call my supervisor to see if there's anything else we can do for you." "Karen, don't bother with your supervisor. I want to speak to the manager immediately. This is discrimination against my ethnic background." My supervisor, who had been helping another customer nearby, came over. "Supervisor, what seems to be the issue here?" "Karen, your employee is refusing to honor my Nordic Heritage discount. This is completely unacceptable treatment of a loyal customer." "Supervisor, ma'am, I'm not aware of any heritage discounts. Could you show me where you heard about this promotion?" "Karen, I shouldn't have to show you anything. My bloodline speaks for itself. I'm a direct descendant of Viking warriors, and my family has contributed more to this community than most people could ever imagine." "Supervisor, I understand you're proud of your family history, but we don't have any discounts based on ancestry. However, I can check if there are any other promotions that might apply to your purchase." "Karen, this is outrageous. I demand to speak to the store manager right now." She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of us. "Karen, I'm documenting this discrimination. My husband is going to hear about this, and so is corporate. You people have no respect for the heritage that built this country." By now, a small crowd had gathered, and the checkout line behind her was getting backed up. "Supervisor, ma'am, I'm going to call the manager, but I need you to step aside so we can help the other customers." "Karen, I'm not moving until I get my discount. These people can wait. My Nordic ancestors didn't explore unknown seas just so I could be treated like a second-class citizen in a store." She planted herself firmly in front of the register and crossed her arms. Customer behind her: "Lady, some of us have places to be. Can you just pay for your stuff and move on?" "Karen, excuse me. I have every right to be here demanding proper treatment. My ancestors discovered this land, and I won't be rushed by people who probably can't even trace their family tree back 3 generations. Customer behind her, are you kidding me right now? The manager finally arrived, looking harried. Manager, what's going on here? Karen, finally, someone with authority. I'm trying to purchase these items with my Nordic Heritage discount, and your staff is refusing to honor it. Manager, ma'am, we don't have any heritage-based discounts. Could you please show me where you heard about this promotion? Karen, I don't need to show you anything. My pure Scandinavian bloodline is all the proof I need. Viking explorers, Norwegian settlers, Swedish craftsmen, my people built the foundation of this country. Manager, I understand you're proud of your background, but we simply don't offer that type of discount. Now, I need you to either complete your purchase or step aside so we can help other customers. Karen, I'm not budging until you respect my heritage. This is discrimination against Nordic people. I'm calling the Better Business Bureau. She dialed a number on her phone while still blocking the checkout line. Karen, yes, I need to file a complaint about ethnic discrimination. What? You don't handle retail disputes? Then who does? The line behind her was now about 15 people deep, and everyone was getting frustrated. Angry customer, this is insane. I've been waiting 20 minutes because this crazy lady thinks being white gives her a discount. Karen, how dare you? My heritage is about more than just race. It's about the proud tradition of exploration, craftsmanship, and leadership that Nordic people brought to this continent. Manager, ma'am, I'm going to have to call security if you don't move away from the register. Karen, call security then. I'm not afraid of them. My ancestors fought off bears and survived Arctic winters. You think I'm intimidated by mall cops? The manager radioed for security while Karen continued her phone calls, apparently now trying to reach local news stations. Karen, this is newsworthy. A major retailer is refusing to acknowledge the contributions of Nordic Americans. This is exactly the kind of story that needs to be told. 2 security guards arrived a few minutes later. Security guard 1. Ma'am, we need you to either complete your purchase or leave the store. You're blocking other customers. Karen, I'm not leaving until I get the respect my bloodline deserves. Do you have any idea what my ancestors went through to make this country great? Security guard 2. Ma'am, we understand you're proud of your family history, but ancestry doesn't come with shopping discounts. You need to move along. Karen, this is persecution. I'm being targeted because of my ethnic background. I want everyone to know that this store discriminates against people of Nordic descent. She was now filming herself giving what she apparently thought was an inspiring speech about Viking heritage and customer rights. Security guard 1. Man, you have 2 choices. You can pay for your items and leave, or you can leave without them. But you're not staying here blocking other customers. Karen, I'll pay full price under protest. But I'm posting this whole experience online so everyone can see how Nordic people are treated in this store. She finally completed her purchase, but not before lecturing everyone within earshot about the historical contributions of Scandinavian immigrants. Karen, you people have no appreciation for the heritage that made this country possible. My ancestors were master shipbuilders and navigators. They deserve recognition. As she gathered her bags, she continued her rant. Karen, I'm never shopping here again. And neither will anyone else once they see my video about this discrimination. She stormed out, still filming herself and talking about Viking honor and customer service failures. The security guards hung around for a few minutes to make sure she actually left. Security guard 2. Well, that was a new one. In 15 years of retail security, I've never heard someone demand a discount based on their bloodline. Manager, I've been in retail for 20 years. And I thought I'd seen everything. Apparently, I was wrong. Next customer in line. Finally, I was starting to think I'd be here all day listening to that Viking princess. Me, I'm so sorry about the wait, everyone. That was definitely not normal. The rest of the day went smoothly, but the story spread quickly through the store. By closing time, everyone had heard about the woman who demanded a Nordic heritage discount. A week later, the manager showed me a one-star review the woman had left online, claiming the store was anti-Nordic and discriminated against customers of Scandinavian descent. The review was so over the top that most people seemed to think it was a joke. The best part came about a month later when corporate sent out a memo to all stores about unusual discount requests. Apparently, our Karen had called the corporate office multiple times demanding they implement a heritage discount program. Corporate's response was to add a line in the employee handbook clarifying that family ancestry, bloodline, or ethnic heritage do not qualify for promotional discounts. I learned later that she tried the same thing at 3 other stores in the area, always with the same result. Apparently, she genuinely believed that being proud of her Scandinavian ancestors entitled her to special treatment everywhere she shopped. Some people really do think the world revolves around them and their family tree. I just never expected to meet someone who thought their DNA came with a coupon book. Story 2. I work as a social media manager for a local business, so I'm pretty good with my phone and recording things when they happen. I also have 2 kids. My daughter is 8 and my son is 6. They live for Halloween. We start planning their costumes in August, and they spend weeks deciding which neighborhoods have the best candy. This year, my daughter wanted to be a witch and my son picked a dinosaur costume. They were so excited. Our neighborhood is perfect for trick or treating. It's safe, well lit, and most of the houses participate. We know all our neighbors, and everyone looks out for each other's kids. I've been taking my children around the same route for years, and it's always been a fun, peaceful evening. The worst thing that usually happens is someone running out of candy early. This year started out normally. We headed out around 6 in the evening when it was just getting dark. The kids had their costumes on and their plastic pumpkin buckets ready. I was wearing a simple vampire cape to get into the spirit. The weather was perfect cool, but not cold, no rain. We hit our usual houses first. The kids were having a blast, running up to doors and shouting their thank yous. Their buckets were getting nicely full of good stuff, full-size candy bars, those fancy wrapped chocolates, and some of the cool glow sticks that one house always gives out. Everything was going great. That's when we ran into her. We were walking down Maple Street when I noticed this woman following about 20 feet behind us. She was probably in her 40s, wearing regular clothes with no costume. At first, I thought maybe she was just walking in the same direction, but then I realized she was definitely following us. She kept the same distance and stopped whenever we stopped. I decided to test it. We turned down Oak Street instead of continuing straight, and sure enough, she turned too. Now I was getting worried. My kids hadn't noticed yet because they were too focused on the next house, but I kept looking back at her. That's when things got weird. We stopped at the Johnson house, and my kids rang the doorbell. Mrs. Johnson came out with her usual big bowl of candy and started letting them pick what they wanted. While they were deciding, this woman suddenly rushed up behind us. "Karen, excuse me, I need to check that candy." Mrs. Johnson looked confused, and I stepped protectively closer to my kids. I'm sorry, what? "Karen, I'm checking all the candy in this neighborhood. There have been reports of poison treats, and I'm making sure children stay safe." Reports from who? I haven't heard anything about that." "Karen, the authorities. Now let me see their bags." She actually reached for my daughter's bucket. I immediately stepped between them. "Ma'am, you need to back off. These are my children, and you're not touching their candy." "Karen, I'm trying to protect them. There could be razor blades or drugs in there." Mrs. Johnson was still standing in her doorway, looking shocked. She's known my family for years. "Mrs. Johnson, I can assure you my candy is perfectly safe. I bought it all at the grocery store yesterday." "Karen, you can't be too careful. Parents these days are so irresponsible." Now I was getting angry, but I was also getting suspicious. Something about this whole situation felt off. I decided to start recording on my phone, holding it casually so she wouldn't notice right away. What's your name? Are you with the police or the health department? Karen, that's not important. What's important is keeping these children safe from negligent parents who don't check their candy properly. That's when she lunged for my son's bucket. He was so startled he almost dropped it, and he started to cry. That was it for me. Get away from my children right now, or I'm calling the police. Karen, I am trying to help. Do you want your kids to get poisoned? By checking their candy yourself. How does that make any sense? She didn't have an answer for that. Instead, she grabbed my daughter's bucket and started digging through it. Karen, see? Look at this. This chocolate bar could have anything in it. She held up a perfectly normal fun-sized Snickers bar that my daughter had just gotten from Mrs. Johnson. Ma'am, you need to give that back right now. Karen, I'm confiscating this for safety reasons. She actually put the candy bar in her own pocket. Then she reached for more candy from my daughter's bucket. My daughter started crying too. That's when I realized what was really happening. This woman wasn't checking for poison, she was stealing candy from children and using safety as an excuse. You're not checking anything. You're stealing from kids. Karen, how dare you accuse me of stealing? I'm protecting your children. Then why did you put that candy bar in your pocket instead of throwing it away? Karen, I was going to dispose of it properly later. By eating it yourself. Other parents and kids had started gathering around us. Word was spreading quickly that something weird was happening. I made sure my phone was still recording everything. What about the other families you've been following tonight? Did you confiscate their candy for safety too? Karen, I don't know what you're talking about. Dad from another family. Actually, she took 3 candy bars from my kids about 10 minutes ago. Said the same thing about poison. Now we had a crowd, and Karen was looking increasingly panicked. Her pockets were clearly bulging with stolen candy. So let me get this straight. You've been following families around all night, scaring children, and stealing their candy while claiming it's for their safety. Karen, this is harassment. You can't gang up on me like this. Ma'am, you're the one who's been harassing families and stealing from children. That's when someone in the crowd called out that they'd already called the police. Karen's face went white. Karen, fine, keep your precious candy. But don't come crying to me when your kids end up in the hospital. She started pulling candy out of her pockets and throwing it on the ground, then stormed off down the street. The crowd started clapping, and several parents helped gather up the scattered candy to return to the right kids. The police showed up about 10 minutes later. I showed them the video I'd recorded, and several other parents gave statements about what had happened. The officers were not amused. Apparently, Karen had been doing this in 2 other neighborhoods before ours, and they'd gotten multiple complaints. They found her at her house 3 blocks away. Her kitchen counter was covered with stolen candy from dozens of children. The police said she'd probably taken candy from over 50 kids throughout the evening. I posted the video on our neighborhood social media page that night, and by morning it had been shared hundreds of times. The local news picked it up, and within a few days it had gone viral across multiple platforms. Karen became known as the Halloween candy thief, and her face was everywhere. The best part was reading the comments from other parents in nearby neighborhoods who said they'd had similar experiences with her on previous Halloweens. Apparently, this wasn't her first time pulling this stunt. She'd been at it for years, just in different areas, so nobody connected the dots. The police ended up charging her with theft and harassment. The judge ordered her to pay restitution to all the families and banned her from participating in any Halloween activities in the county. She also had to do community service at a food bank, which seemed fitting. My kids got all their candy back, plus extra from neighbors who felt bad about what happened. They still talk about the crazy lady who tried to steal their Halloween candy, but they're not scared of trick or treating anymore. If anything, they're more excited because they know the whole neighborhood has their backs. Karen tried to claim in court that she was just concerned about child safety, but the video evidence was pretty damning. You could clearly see her pocketing candy instead of disposing of it, and her story fell apart completely when they found her kitchen full of stolen treats. The incident actually brought our neighborhood closer together. Now we have a group chat where parents coordinate Halloween routes and keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. And every year on Halloween, someone inevitably brings up the story of the woman who thought she could steal candy from kids and get away with it by claiming she was protecting them. She moved away about 6 months later, probably because she couldn't show her face in public anymore without someone recognizing her from the viral video. The whole thing was a good reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with entitled people is to document everything and let their own actions speak for themselves. Story 3. I've been working in hospitality for 6 years now, starting as a housekeeper right after high school. I worked my way up to pool attendant, then front desk, and now I'm a guest services coordinator at Sunset Bay Resort. It's one of those mid-tier beach resorts that attracts families and couples looking for a decent vacation without breaking the bank. I love my job because every day is different, and most guests are genuinely happy to be here. The resort has 3 pools: a main family pool with a water slide, a quiet adult pool, and a kids' splash area. My job involves handling guest complaints, coordinating activities, and basically making sure everyone has a good time. I also fill in wherever needed, which is how I ended up covering for our pool attendant last Thursday when he called in sick. It was peak season, so all 3 pools were packed by 10 in the morning. Families were claiming lounge chairs, kids were running around with pool noodles, and the usual vacation chaos was in full swing. That's when I noticed this woman setting up what looked like a meditation area near the shallow end of the main pool. She had about 8 reserved signs that she'd clearly made herself just printer paper taped to plastic holders. She was placing them around the best spots by the pool, the ones with both sun and shade options that families usually fight over. I walked over because this definitely wasn't normal. Excuse me, ma'am, are these your signs? Karen: yes, I need this entire section for my spiritual cleanse ceremony. It's very important that I have uninterrupted access to the water energy. I'm sorry, but guests can't reserve common areas like this. The pool is shared space for all our visitors. Karen: this isn't negotiable. I specifically booked this resort because of its spiritual energy. I need to perform a cleansing ritual that requires privacy and concentration. I looked around at the dozens of families who were already settled in with their kids and pool toys. A couple of parents were giving me questioning looks, probably wondering if they needed to move. I understand you want to enjoy the pool, but these signs need to come down. Other guests have just as much right to this area. Karen: other guests can use the rest of the pool. I only need this section for 2 hours. She pointed to about a quarter of the main pool area, which included the steps, the shallow end, and 6 of the most popular lounge chairs. Ma'am, that's not how it works. If you'd like some quiet time, our adult pool might be better suited for. Karen: the adult pool doesn't have the right energy alignment. This section faces east, which is essential for my cleansing ceremony. Before I could respond, she started approaching families who were already settled in the area. Karen: excuse me, I'm going to need you to move. This area is reserved for spiritual purposes. The dad looked confused and turned to me. Dad, is this legit? We've been here for an hour already. No sir, you don't need to move. Ma'am, you cannot ask other guests to leave common areas. Karen: this is discrimination against my spiritual practices. I have rights. She was getting louder, and more people were starting to stare. I could see my manager walking over from the tiki bar. Manager: what's the situation here? I quickly explained what was happening, while Karen stood there with her arms crossed, looking like we were all being completely unreasonable. Manager: ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to remove these signs immediately. You cannot reserve public areas of the resort. Karen: fine, but I'm still doing my ceremony. Everyone else can deal with it." She started pulling up the signs, but instead of leaving, she waded into the shallow end of the pool. There were kids playing nearby, and their parents were watching nervously. Karen began what I can only describe as the most obnoxious chanting I've ever heard. She was standing waist-deep in the water with her arms raised, making these loud whooping sounds and speaking in what sounded like made-up gibberish. The kids stopped playing and started staring. Some of the younger ones looked scared. "Karen, oh sacred waters, cleanse my spirit. Remove the negative energy of these non-believers." A mom with 2 little girls approached me. "Mom, is she going to do this much longer? My kids are afraid to get back in the water." That's when Karen really escalated things. "Karen, everyone needs to exit the pool. The water is being purified and your presence is contaminating the spiritual process." She started splashing water aggressively in the direction of anyone who was still in the pool. Kids were crying, parents were getting angry, and the whole situation was completely out of control. My manager signaled for me to call security while he tried to get Karen to calm down. But I had a better idea. I pulled out my phone and started recording, because this was so ridiculous that nobody would believe it without proof. "Karen, the spirits are telling me that this pool belongs to me right now. Everyone out." She was literally chasing a family with young children out of the shallow end, splashing water at them while continuing her weird chanting. "Karen, be gone. Negative energies. This sacred space rejects your presence." The video I got was pure gold. Karen flailing around in the pool, screaming at families, claiming the water was spiritually hers, while terrified kids watched from the pool deck. Security arrived and had to physically escort her out of the pool. She was still yelling about discrimination and spiritual rights as they walked her toward the main building. "Manager, ma'am, this behavior constitutes harassment of other guests. We're going to need to discuss your continued stay at our resort." "Karen, you can't kick me out for practicing my religion." "Manager, you can practice whatever you want in your room. You cannot harass other guests or monopolize common areas." Within an hour, Karen was in the front office arguing with the general manager. I submitted my video as evidence of the incident, along with statements from 3 families who'd been affected. The general manager reviewed everything and made his decision quickly. "General manager, your reservation is being terminated immediately. You'll need to check out today with no refund due to violation of our guest conduct policy." "Karen, this is illegal. I'm calling my lawyer." "General manager, that's your right. Security will escort you to your room to collect your belongings." The best part came later that evening. Karen had apparently called the local news claiming religious discrimination, but when they asked for her side of the story, she described exactly what she'd done in the pool. The reporter basically told her that harassing other guests wasn't protected religious expression. She also tried posting about it on social media, but someone had already shared my video. The comments were brutal. People were roasting her for terrorizing little kids and claiming ownership of a public pool. The resort ended up giving pool passes to the 3 families who'd been most affected by her behavior, and we got amazing reviews praising how quickly we handled the situation. Karen tried to dispute the charges with her credit card company, but our video evidence and witness statements made it pretty clear who was at fault. Her dispute was denied. Sometimes I wonder if she actually believes her own nonsense, or if she just thinks making everything about spirituality gives her the right to do whatever she wants. Either way, she picked the wrong pool to cleanse her spirit in. Story 4. I've been delivering food for 3 years now, ever since I graduated high school and started saving money for college. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and the tips help me put away money for tuition. I work for a local pizza place called Tony's, and most of our customers are pretty decent people. The apartment complex on Maple Street is one of my regular stops. It's a nice building with about 60 units, and I probably deliver there 3 or 4 times a week. The building has this system where all the mailboxes are in the lobby, so when I have multiple deliveries, I can set up there and call customers to come down. It saves time and keeps the food hot. That's how I came up with the tip jar idea. I'd noticed that when I delivered to office buildings, some drivers would leave a small jar with a sign that said, "Tips appreciated," while they waited. It wasn't pushy or anything, just a friendly reminder that tips help drivers like me. I figured it couldn't hurt to try it at the apartment complex. I bought a clear plastic jar and made a simple sign that said, "Tips help pay for college, thanks." I only put it out when I had multiple deliveries in the same building, and I'd be there for more than a few minutes. Most people just ignored it, which was fine. But some residents started recognizing me and would drop in $1 or $2 when they saw me in the lobby. It wasn't much, but every little bit helped. The system worked great for about 2 months. I'd set the jar on the counter next to the mailboxes, make my deliveries, and pack it up when I was done. The building management never complained, and the residents seemed okay with it. Some even started specifically requesting me when they ordered because they knew I was saving for school. Then came that Tuesday evening that changed everything. I had 4 deliveries in the building: 2 pizzas for apartment 3B, Chinese food for 4A, and sandwiches for 2C and 5F. I set up my usual spot in the lobby with the tip jar and started calling customers. The first 3 deliveries went smoothly. I was waiting for the customer in 5F to come down when this woman stormed into the lobby. She was probably in her 50s, wearing expensive clothes and carrying a designer purse. She took one look at my tip jar and her face twisted into this disgusted expression. "Karen, what is this?" Me, "Oh, that's just a tip jar, ma'am. I'm a delivery driver saving for college." "Karen, are you kidding me? You're panhandling in our building." Me, "I'm not panhandling, ma'am. I'm here making deliveries. The jar is just there in case anyone wants to leave a tip." "Karen, this is absolutely unacceptable. You're making residents feel guilty and pressured to give you money." I was confused because none of the residents had ever complained. In fact, most of them were friendly, and some had even asked me about my college plans. Me, "I'm sorry if it bothers you, ma'am. I can put it away if you'd like." "Karen, you should never have put it out in the first place. This is public humiliation." Me, "Public humiliation? I'm not sure what you mean." "Karen, you're making everyone who walks through here feel bad if they don't give you money. It's emotional manipulation." At this point, I was getting frustrated. I'd been working all day, I was tired, and this woman was yelling at me over a small plastic jar. Me, "Ma'am, I'm just trying to make an honest living. The jar isn't hurting anyone." Karen, "Honest living? You call begging an honest living?" Me, "I'm not begging. I'm delivering food and providing a service. Tips are normal in this industry." Karen, "Not like this. Not with some pathetic sob story about college." That's when she did something I couldn't believe. She grabbed my tip jar and dumped it on the floor. Coins and bills scattered everywhere, rolling under the mailboxes and across the lobby. Karen, "There, problem solved." I stood there in shock for a moment, watching my hard-earned tips scattered across the floor. There was probably $15 in there, not a fortune, but it represented hours of work and customers who had been kind enough to help me out. Me, "Why would you do that?" Karen, "Because you needed to learn a lesson about proper behavior in public spaces." I got down on my hands and knees and started collecting the money. Some of the coins had rolled way under the mailboxes where I couldn't reach them. Me, "This is my money. People gave this to me." Karen, "Well, maybe next time you'll think twice before setting up your little begging operation in our building." Me, "I don't even think you live here. I've never seen you before." Karen, "That's none of your business. I have every right to be here." Just then, the customer from 5F came down for his sandwiches. He saw me on the floor collecting coins and Karen standing there looking smug. Customer, "What happened here?" Me, "This woman dumped my tip jar on the floor." Customer, "She did what?" Karen, "I put a stop to this inappropriate panhandling in our building." Customer, "Panhandling? He's been delivering food here for months. He's a good kid saving for college." Karen, I don't care what his sob story is. This behavior is unacceptable. Customer: Ma'am, I don't know who you are, but you had no right to touch his property. Karen: It's not property. It's a public nuisance. The customer helped me collect the rest of the coins, while Karen continued ranting about how I was corrupting the building with my begging. When we finished gathering everything, I was missing about $3 that had rolled into places we couldn't reach. Customer: I'm really sorry about this. Here, let me give you something extra for the trouble. He handed me a $20 bill, which was incredibly generous since his order was only $12. Customer: And I'm definitely reporting this to building management. We have security cameras in here. Karen: You can't report me for anything. I was protecting the residents. Customer: From what? A polite kid trying to earn money for school. Karen: From being harassed and manipulated. Customer: Lady, you're the only one harassing anyone here. After the customer left with his food, Karen stormed out of the building, still muttering about how she'd taught me a lesson. I finished collecting what money I could find and headed back to the restaurant. When I told my manager what happened, he was furious. He said he'd never heard of anything so ridiculous in 20 years of running the business. He also told me that if I wanted to keep using the tip jar, he'd back me up completely. The next day, I got a call from the building manager. Turns out the customer from 5F had reported the incident, and they'd reviewed the security footage. The cameras had caught everything: Karen dumping the jar, me collecting the scattered money, and her entire rant about public humiliation. Building manager: I'm calling to apologize for what happened. We've identified the woman from the footage. Me: Does she live there? Building manager: No, she doesn't. She was visiting her daughter in 4C. We've contacted the daughter and explained the situation. Me: What did the daughter say? Building manager: She was mortified. Apparently this isn't the first time her mother has caused problems like this. She's asked us to ban her mother from the building. Me: Really? Building manager: Yes. We're also sending a copy of the footage to the police. What she did was theft and destruction of property. I couldn't believe it. I thought that would be the end of it. But about a week later, I got another call. This time it was from a police officer. Officer, we've reviewed the security footage from the apartment building. The woman has been identified and we'd like to press charges. Me: What kind of charges? Officer: Theft and disorderly conduct. She took your property and dumped it on the floor, then caused a public disturbance. Me: I didn't know you could press charges for something like that. Officer: Absolutely. Just because the amounts were small doesn't mean it wasn't a crime. 2 weeks later, I had to go to court as a witness. Karen showed up with a lawyer and everything. She tried to claim that my tip jar was illegal solicitation and that she was just trying to help the building residents. Her lawyer argued that she was performing a public service. The judge wasn't having it. The security footage showed everything clearly: me quietly doing my job, her aggressive confrontation, and her deliberately dumping my money on the floor. The judge fined her $200 and ordered her to pay me $50 in restitution for the money I couldn't recover and the time I spent dealing with the incident. But the best part came after the court hearing. I found out that Karen had actually called Tony's Pizza Place multiple times over the years to complain about delivery times and food quality. She'd ordered from us at least a dozen times and had never been satisfied with anything. My manager had flagged her number in our system as a problem customer even before this incident. After everything that happened, my manager decided to ban her from ordering from Tony's permanently. Her daughter called to apologize and said she'd make sure her mother never caused problems like this again. The apartment building also put up a small sign in the lobby that said, "Food delivery drivers are welcome to use appropriate tip containers while making deliveries." The building manager said several residents had specifically requested it after hearing about what happened to me. Now when I deliver to that building, I still use my tip jar. But more importantly, I've gotten to know a lot of the residents better. Many of them have heard the story and go out of their way to be supportive. Some even ask me about my college plans and how my classes are going. Karen never got her money back from the fine, and she can't order from Tony's anymore. Her daughter has to use a different pizza place now when she wants delivery. Sometimes I wonder if Karen learned anything from the experience, but honestly, I doubt it. Some people just think they have the right to control everyone around them, even when it's none of their business.